Hello everyone, welcome to Literature Warriors. Today I'm going to talk about the poetic techniques of the poem The Clown's Wife by Johnson Aga. Earlier I have done a brief analysis on the poem and then I have discussed the themes with you, and here I want to talk about the most important techniques of the poem The Clown's Wife by Johnson Aga. Well, the first technique I'm going to talk is the rhyme scheme of the poem. There is no proper rhyming scheme in the poem, and there are 6 unrhymed irregular stanzas in the poem, and the irregular format of the poem may coincide the irregularity of the clown's character. As you can remember, the clown's character in the poem is not a steady character. He is having dual identities. That means on the stage, he is a different person. He is a happy, joyous person. And when it comes to the home, he is a mourning, weeping, and a sad person who is isolated. So, his character is irregular, not regular. So, that irregularity may shown in the format of the poem as well. Then the other techniques are simple language and conversational tone. When you go through the poem, you can see the poem is written with very simple language that anyone can understand the poem by reading it. And it's a kind of a conversational tone because the poem starts with a question and ends with a question, as I've quoted here. About my husband, the clown, what could I say? These are the words of the clown's wife. So the whole poem goes through a conversational tone. Next, paradox. The story flows in a contradictory way. The clown, with his funny appearance and performances on the stage, entertains the spectators. At home, he becomes the spectator of his wife. So this is where the contradictory form lies, because the clown, who is having a large audience and lot of spectators when he's performing on the stage, when comes to the home, he becomes a spectator of his wife. So it is the paradox shown here. It's the reversal of characters can be shown with this paradox. And also you can see, as I have discussed before, the dual identities of the clown is also shown in the poem through a paradox. Well, the next technique is visual imagery. This is a very significant technique in the poem because with the descriptive language used by the poet, we can visualize the image of a clown. So, for example, with the phrase red nose and funny clothes, as I have quoted here, you can visualize the image of a clown. Well, the next part, the readers also can picture the actions of the clown's wife dressing as a clown. Now, you can remember there's a stanza I have quoted here. I juggle with eggs, I turn cartwheels, I tell jokes, I do my latest card trick, I even have a borrow of his red nose. So with all these, we can picture the actions of the clown's wife, who is dressing as a female clown because she is also wearing a red nose like the other clowns. So we can picture this clown's wife dressing as a female clown. Well, next, irony and sarcasm. This is another important technique. It's ironical how the person who is capable of cheering up a big crowd appears to be a poor soul at home, being the spectator of his wife. Now just think about it. Now, as I've told you before, the clown is a very famous popular character when he's performing on the stage, and he is capable of changing the moods of people, fixing the moods of people. So he is considered as an asset to the society. But at home, ironically, he becomes a poor soul and he has to play the role of the spectator at home because he is having a miserable life at home in his real life. And it's sarcastic as the wife tries to imitate the clown to cheer her husband, who is also a clown. Well, so you can see here juggling, eggs turning, cartwheels, everything done by the wife imitating her husband. Her husband is a clown. Now she is imitating the clown's actions. The clown is the expert of all these actions. So it's sarcastic while you tries to imitate the actions of an expert. So she says, I do my best to cheer him up, but her efforts finally become unsuccessful. So it's quite sarcastic. Humor is also another significant technique in the poem. The poet creates humor through the actions of the wife as the wife tries to perform the role of the clown. So the sarcasm, also humor, is brought out through the poem, the actions of the wife imitating the clown. Well, next, the technique is repetition. In the poem, the several phrases and words have been repeated. So the first, the conjunction but is repeated to imply the contrasting situations that the clown undergoes on the stage and at home, and to contrast his dual personalities. So but is used several times as the poet wants to highlight that this person is having dual identities, and he contrasts these two situations when he is on stage and at home. Then the phrase red nose is repeated in order to highlight the physical appearance of the clown. Well, the red nose is significant. The word life is repeated followed by the exclamations O and R, suggesting that the life is painful and frustrated to the clown. So you can remember in the last two lines, before the last line it says, O life, our life. What would I do without this clown of a wife? Well, so life is repeated twice with the exclamations O and R. It's significant because the poet wants to show that the life is a painful, frustrated thing to the clown, though he shows that he is a happy person on the stage. For that purpose, the life is repeated several times. And the phrase doesn't say is repeated, and the poet tries to convey that the clown requires to be in isolation, and the couple, the clown and the wife, lack mutual communication. I have talked about this in the themes as well. So doesn't say is repeated because the clowns need to be isolated, be alone is suggested through this because he doesn't share any of his sufferings with his wife, and at the same time they lack mutual communication. So to bring out that, the poet has repeated the phrase doesn't say. Well, the next technique is metaphors. The clown performs actively and excellently on the stage. He is a public admirer and wins the attention of the audience. He dominates the whole crowd with his wonderful performances. Therefore, the poet has compared him to a king on a throne. So, as you can remember, on the stage, he is performing excellently. He is an asset. He can change the moods of people, and he can dominate the whole crowd. He can rule the crowd being on the stage, performing his excellent performances. So he is considered as a king on a throne. So the poet directly compares the clown for a king on a throne. So the metaphor is a king on a throne. And there is another metaphor. At home, the clown falls into a miserable state. He is no longer a talented actor or a performer, but a desperate and desolate person. Therefore, the poet metaphorically takes him as poor soul. See, I have quoted the line, I do my best to cheer him up, poor soul. So you can see the poet has compared the clown to a poor soul at home, because at home he is quite different, being an isolated, frustrated person. So these are the two metaphors revealed in the poem. Well, then the last technique is anaphora. Anaphora is also kind of repetition. So here you can see this stanza, I do my best to cheer him up. I juggle with eggs, I turn cartwheels, I tell jokes, I do my latest card trick. I even have a burrow of his red nose. I do, I juggle, I turn, I tell, I do, I have. Like that, the actions are in a sequence and it's repeated. The pattern is repeated, so that we call anaphora, and the poet has used anaphora, repeating the actions, the same pattern of actions, emphasizing the actions done by the wife. Well, now let me revise you the techniques again. There are 6 unrhymed irregular stanzas in the poem, and the poem has been written with simple language and a conversational tone, and there's a paradox with presenting it in a contradictory way, visual imagery, irony and sarcasm, humor, repetition, metaphors, and lastly anaphora is there. Well then, I have already discussed the poetic techniques with you now. So now you have a good understanding about the poem. Now you can write answers from the poem The Clown's Wife by Johnson Aga, and hope to come up with some other poems from the O-level literature syllabus. Thank you for watching.